Hey, before you scroll past, let me tell you what happened the first time I hooked up the REL HT/1003 MKII. A movie I'd watched 100 times suddenly felt bigger, deeper, and more alive because the bass finally wasn't just background noise, it was presence. This is for the person who's tired of thin lows that barely register, who sat through action scenes thinking this should shake the room, who knows your system deserves bass with authority, not just polite thumps. You can tell when something's missing, and you're done settling for less. Before you go any further, take a moment to check the current price and stock. Premium subs like this don't stay steady for long, and hesitation often turns into regret later. You knew it was time to upgrade when your current setup made every explosion sound like a suggestion instead of a moment. When music lacked body and felt hollow. When even intense scenes felt unanchored because the foundation just wasn't there. That quiet frustration doesn't go away on its own, you outgrow it, and then you start craving impact with real depth. The first time the HT/1003 MKII came alive, that fog lifted. That 10-inch driver with Class D power doesn't just push bass, it anchors it. Lows suddenly had shape instead of blur. Music grooves had weight and rhythm. Moving low-end effects didn't just happen, they landed. It wasn't just louder, it was controlled and purposeful. Once you feel that level of depth and precision, anything weaker starts to feel like a placeholder you tolerated too long. I use this sub in real life, marathon movie nights where every rumble felt intentional, gaming where footsteps and impacts became informative instead of vague, playlists where bass had texture instead of mess, and everyday shows that suddenly sounded full instead of flat. It doesn't just add low end, it balances your system so the rest of the speakers breathe and perform the way they were meant to. This isn't about chasing numbers on paper, it's about the feeling every time you press play. Once you've felt that kind of depth, anything less starts to feel like a constraint you don't need anymore. So here's the push you actually need. Don't wait around for prices to dip or stock to stabilize. Subs like this get traction fast, and hesitation quietly turns into that little regret you think about every time your current setup underdelivers. You might wonder if a compact sub can really give you low-end impact. That doubt disappears the moment you hear how tight and controlled the lows stay, strong without mud, deep without distortion. It doesn't just fill the room, it defines how your room sounds. One surprise most people overlook? Once your bass behaves with precision, the rest of your system suddenly sounds clearer, highs and mids stop fighting for space and start performing the way they were meant to. Owning something at this level doesn't just fill frequency, it completes your system. Every explosion feels grounded. Music feels full, not hollow. Bass feels precise, not boomy. Your whole setup finally feels balanced. If I'm honest, any premium sub takes thoughtful placement. And deep, accurate bass always asks for a real commitment. But at some point, you stop cycling through lesser options and just pick the sub you already wanted, because every time you consider something weaker, you come back to that feeling of yes, that's real bass. Don't let this be the upgrade you delay and later wish you'd made sooner. If you want lows that finally feel intentional and not just loud, check the REL HT/1003 MKII now and bring the foundation your sound deserves home.